Welcome back to Hard Hats and Headspace with me, Stuart Wallace. This week I've got Steve Kirby with me. He's going to have a chat with us about his life story, and we're just going to shoot the breeze for half an hour to an hour, see how we get on before he goes off to the wonderful wilds of Norfolk and Suffolk and East Anglia. It depends whether he gets lost or not, So welcome, Steve. How you doing?
Thank you, Stuart. I'm doing good. How are yourself?
Spot on, mate. Spot on. So yeah, I'm in a good place. Would you like to tell people who are listening a bit more about you? Obviously, I know a bit more about you, but who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Yeah, so my name's, as we said, Steve Kirby. I'm 47. I was born in Hull, in East Yorkshire.
The Yorkshire Riviera.
And yeah, career-wise, I started in construction when I was about 20 years of age. Done a few other, being a croupier in a casino. I tried a few bits and bobs. Become a duty manager of a hotel, which I had no understanding of doing. I lasted about 2 days. And then I got into construction at 20, just as a ground worker, so at labourer. I was hand digging a lot and gophering a lot. I did that for a few years before I eventually nagged my boss into letting me get my 360 ticket. I got my 360 ticket, then I got my 180 ticket, and I was driving about in a cat for a bit, and then he got me in a dumper, in a Moxie dump truck, and basically, yeah, I got all my plant tickets, my telehandler, rough terrain fork truck, and I just jumped in any machine that was needed for the next 17 years. I was a plant operator all over the UK.
Amazing.
Up until the age of 40, and then I set up SK Life Coach UK, just on a whim. I had no idea what I was doing. I was helping a lot of people in mental health because of my experience, what we can go into. I'd studied a lot for my own just self-development, and someone said to me, "You should do this as a business." And I was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Coach people." And I was like, I can't set up a business. I left school with no GCSEs. I've been sat in a digger for 20 years. And they was like, look, just look into it because I think you'd be good. And I did. And within a few days, I had set up Steve Kirby Life Coach UK, which when people see it all one way, they're like, what's that?
Sklife.
But yeah, SK Life Coach UK, which obviously stands for Steve Kirby Life Coach UK. And I've been doing that now for, it'll be 7 years in March. Which, yeah, it's crazy. It's to go from
amazing
where I was to where I am today. It's
frightening going on your own sometimes. I did it for a little while before I joined base, and after I left Master Wall and went self-employed for a bit, and it's hard selling yourself. That's what I found.
Yeah, it took a couple of years. Because again, like I set up as a coach. I wanted to help. My goal was to help guys in construction who maybe could do with therapy, but don't want to go for therapy, And as a former construction worker, if someone said to me, you should go for therapy, I'd be like, I go for therapy. But having gone through what I'd gone through, I thought more guys need to talk, because we all carry a lot and we stress a lot and we don't want to worry partners or anybody else. So we tell everyone we're dealing with it, but we're not always dealing with it. So I just wanted to kind of be a life coach for guys in construction.
Well, there's not many of people around with that experience to do it either. You'll listen to people like you. That's why you get on with people in the pub, so to speak, right? Because they're your mates and the people that you relate to. You don't go with people you don't like.
Right? No.
And that's really important.
And again, and for me, becoming a life coach again, I'd studied NLP for a long time, neuro-linguistic programming, studied CBT therapy, studied hypnotherapy for years now, trained as a hypnotherapist, put myself through a couple of 2-week courses and a few others. And then, but there was basically all tools that I could use to help people with their own mindset. Yeah. And then I put a post on LinkedIn just saying why I'm a coach and what happened. And a guy from Skanska saw it and rang me up and said, am I right in seeing that you survived an 18-bar pressure test failure, which is where the mental health kind of journey began? And I was like, yeah. And he said, will you come to London to our head office and share your story? And I was like, why? And they said, because there's so much we can learn from this type of incident. Yeah. And he said, to be honest with you, Steve, I've looked into a lot of these kind of failures when it comes to pressure testing and whatnot. and not many people survive, especially
Yeah.
them kind of pressures and that size pipe. He said, so it'd be great to have you down here. And then I went, nervous wreck, spoke to 12 bosses in a room, shared my story, went pretty well, got a few more bookings, got a few bookings with Morrison's water, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, and then the world stopped
Yeah.
for 2 years.
As I
So
keep saying and getting told off, someone sneezed or the world sneezed. Right. And yeah, that was bad for all of us. I think that probably did for me.
yeah,
I
so
want to go back a little bit to your early career, right? Because I love construction, right? And I'm not a tradesperson. You're as Steve Kerslake says, I'm not a tradesperson. I'm a ground worker, but I can see that as a trade, right? First person to dig. And we always talk about shovels in the ground, and I see projects that I love and inspire me that we've done. So, there's a point, and we will get onto that because it is incredibly important. But I always want to try and inspire people to still work in our industry as well. Is it as dangerous and as it
yeah,
can be, but if you do it right. So, I mean, my favourite projects, and we'll come. I'll give you my two of my favourites, or 205, and McLaren Formula One, because every time I see them. But then I came to work for Mace, and then you're like, oh, there's so many bloody amazing projects.
yeah,
So I was choosing it. Shard, Tottenham,
yeah,
Houston,
yeah.
whatever it is. What are inspiring biggies for you? The ones that they might not look beautiful, but
I think now for me, a lot of my work was local, and a lot of the
yeah,
work I did traveling was demolition. So I worked for a
right.
company called KDC Contractors at the time. Don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah,
They was based in Manchester initially, but then spread about. So I spent a lot of time in construction and then equally as much time in demolition, bringing buildings down. And for me,
deconstruction, isn't it? They
yeah,
call it
yeah.
now.
No, but for me, I preferred that because there was a lot less thinking involved. It was a lot easier to bring something down than it is to put something up.
That's true.
But yeah, and a lot of my work as well was on a local chemical plant where we did a lot of demolition and a lot of groundworks, a lot of rebuilds. But yeah, I hadn't been fortunate enough to be on a big project like McLaren or
Big
the
toe in all
Shard
them. So
or the Shard or anything like that. It was,
yeah,
but I loved my job. Even
yeah,
even even as a ground worker, like I've always been physical. I've always gone to the gym since I was a young lad. And in my mind, I left school with no GCSEs. I want built to be sat in an office. And
yeah.
so for me, when I got into construction and demolition, yeah, it was just I like the graft, I like the work. Obviously, as I got a bit older, I didn't like it as much because when you're doing something day in and day out, and that I was happy some cold winter mornings when I was sat in a 360, but I'm looking at the lads trying to dig through solid ground because there's services.
Yeah.
But
And
but
what you do? So like that. Sorry, lads, you're right.
but
Got
yeah,
you.
I think I know at the minute, especially like construction, we are struggling to bring in the younger generation and to bring workers in, and I think something needs to be done to encourage more. Do you know what I mean? Because it is career wise as well. You can start off as a ground worker and become a project manager.
Yeah, yeah. You can go all the way with it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities in that as well.
And I think, what we're going to get onto, in an ironic way, we want to make our industry a bit more open and transparent um, about what we've learned from mistakes. Some people say we win or we learn, right? We learn from our mistakes, and what's gone on in the past. So having people like you, be willing to talk. Let's get on to that. So you're in demolition, deconstruction, to what we're going to use, and what led to the career change? Take me there.
We'll go back to when I was 32, literally 8 years before the career change. I was 32, 11th of January 2011. Just had 2 weeks off for Christmas and Christmas break. I was working on a local project in Hull where I was living at the time. Got up that morning. As I said, a lot of my working life, I've been away from home, like a lot of guys, Monday to Friday. But on this job,
Yeah,
I was 10 minutes away from my house. The site was 10 minutes away. So I had breakfast with my 2 kids and my partner at the time. It was thick snow, it was cold, it was freezing. And I remember driving to work that morning thinking, what is the point in even going in? Because we're going to be cabined up all day. It was one of the worst winters I can think back to. And then gets to site, gets into like the mess room and whatnot, and our gaffer come in and he said, right, morning briefing. And then he was like, right, Steve, so, you 5 guys, you're back on the project we'd started on. And basically what we was doing was installing a high pressure fire hydrant system
Yeah.
underground, 600 mil pipe. We'd already installed 60 meters of it. I believed I was going to be breaking out and digging out the next section so I could bring it round. And then in the briefing that morning, we was told, before we can carry on any works, we have to do a hydrostatic pressure test on that section. And we all kind of looked at each other as if to say, hydro what? And like,
I knew you could say it.
and we'd never
That's what
done
I
one.
learned.
Yeah, never done one, not no training or anything. And then basically, I know now, they were supposed to get a professional team in to come and do it. Like somebody who deals with pressure tests day in and day out. But they couldn't get no one because it was so soon after after Christmas. But we had a guy from the agency working with us who had a streetworks card. And apparently
Right.
that streetworks card gave him the competency to supervise us to do this pressure test. Now, it sounded really, really simple. We've got 60 meters of 600 mil pipe. All we've got to do, we've got a cap on either end, a flange. All we've got to do is fill it with water until there's water coming out the valve, shut the valve off, put the pump on and get it up to 28 bar of pressure. Now, it sounded, so when we went through the risk assessment, the method statement, permits, sounded so simple. Fill a pipe with water, pressurize it to 28 bar, and then we can carry on. But basically, we get on site, we do our on-site risk assessment, assess egress. As I said, it's fixed snow, it's icy, it's freezing. And then me, as I said, I'm a digger driver, and when it's nice and cold and I've got nothing to do, I'm going to do what any good digger driver would do. I get in my machine, I turn the heaters on, I sit back, and I've got nothing to do then. Like, it's basically, I can't break anything out until this is done. And
Yeah.
the lads start pressurizing the pipe. And we had 2 young ground workers, Jordan and Anthony, they're both 18. And we had to get this pipe to 28 bar of pressure. And at around about 3 bar of pressure, it started leaking at the flange. And the competent guy from the agency said, right, stop the pump, get in the trench, tighten up the nut and the bolt on the flange. And so we just thought that's what you do. So basically, we'll stop the pump. The 2 lads get in, they're tying it up. About an hour passes, pressurizing it again. It gets to about 5 bar, it starts leaking again. So they do the same again, different area. It then gets to lunchtime, it's 12:30, and I hear Jordan say, we've got a leak again. Wasn't a massive leak, but there's water coming out the flange. So at that point, I got that gut feeling. Something just didn't feel right. And we was told then, as we are today, something don't feel right, stop the job.
Stop. Yeah.
Stop what you're doing. So I jumped out my machine and I said to Jordan, don't go back in the trench. And he said, why? I said, I don't know what 10 bar of pressure is, but I know there's 10 bar of pressure in that pipe. And should you be in there while it's leaking, it's under pressure, something just don't feel right. But I couldn't explain it because I didn't know anything about pressure testing. The guy from the agency was like, oh, you'll get back in your machine. We need to get the job done. So I sent one of the other lads, one of my mates, to the office to tell the manager. He said, they used to call me Fatty, and he said, oh, Fatty stopped the job. And the manager's like, what do you mean Steve stopped the job? He said, well, this spigot end, the end of the pipe, it's leaked a few times now, and it's taken forever to get up to pressure. So the manager said, what's the agency guy say? He said, he just keeps saying, keep tightening it, get the job done. So the manager then went onto his computer and he went onto St. Gobain's website, who manufactured this system. And it stated on their site that if this is all put together correctly by competent people, that spigot end can be tested up to 38 bar and it can't come off. It won't go nowhere. We was going up to 28. So the manager then just said, tell Fatty to get back in his machine. It can't go nowhere. It's fine. It's all right. So Jim comes back, tells me to get back in my machine. The lad's tying it up. It then gets to exactly 2 minutes past 3. We've been at this all day and it's snowing. It's freezing. It's horrible. And I hear Jordan again say, for fuck's sake, it's leaking again. It was at 18 bar of pressure. And at that point, I knew it was going to take hours to get another 10 bar in it. We had to go to 28 bar of pressure, and it'd taken all day to get to 18. We finish work at 4 o'clock. It's dark nights, and it's just gone 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So in my mind, all of a sudden, it's like, I'm not working overtime. I'm not staying here till 3 o'clock tonight. So I got out my machine and I knew I was physically stronger than Anthony and Jordan. I was 32 at the time. I'd been throwing weights about since I was 16. I wasn't being gung-ho. I just knew that I was stronger. I jumped out the machine. I said to Jordan, give me a harness, give me the spanners. I'm going to go and tighten up all 24 nuts and bolts. Because if I get them as tight as I can get them, it'll get up to pressure. We can go on. I gets to the ladder to enter the trench. As I got to the ladder, thankfully I passed the spanners back to one of the lads while safely entering the trench for 3 points of contact.
Yeah.
And I get into the trench. I'm stood in front of the pipe, 600 mil pipe, 1200 mil trench. I'm a 16 stone guy. There's not a lot of room in there.
No, you're not.
And then as I reached up for the spanners, in that exact moment I reached up, the end blew off at 18 bar, around 18 bar of pressure. Now, if that spigot end weighed 460 kilograms. If that had hit me, it'd have gone clean through me.
Yeah.
My digger arm was actually behind me. I had an 8-ton cat, and it moved my digger arm to the end of the trench with the impact. That's how much force was behind it. Then obviously there's a few thousand liters of water in that pipe. I don't know how many exactly, but there's 60 meters of 600 mil pipe full of water.
Yeah.
So the trench then fills up instantly. Now, I remember reaching for the spanners, and then my next memory is I'm trapped underwater. I wake up underwater. I don't know where I am. I'm getting thrown about like I'm in some kind of rapid or a washing machine. Don't know which way's up. I'm disorientated. I didn't even know I was at work. I thought I was in the local river. I thought I was in the Humber. Didn't know how I got there, but I knew
Yeah.
I was drowning. Now, when they say in them moments, your life kind of flashes before your eyes. Like I remember physically praying. I'm not a religious person, but I was praying to God, please, please, I can't die. I can't leave my kids. My kids was 4 and 8 at the time. Remembering kissing them that morning and saying, "Go see you tonight, boys." I mean, everything seemed to stand still. Like time seemed to stand still, and I had time to process so much stuff. I was physically screaming for my mum. Always been really close to my mum, and I just believed I was never going to see her again. Do you know what I mean? It was now, and then all of a sudden, I felt myself rise up. And what had happened was when it blew, all the lads ran to protect themselves, like turned, because there was a massive bang, apparently, a lot of water.
Yeah.
And then young Jordan looked back, and I thought I was fighting to get out. I just laid face down in the water. So he's jumped in and he's pulled me up. Now, everyone at that point is screaming at me to breathe. And I remember looking at people thinking, somebody please help. I'd swallowed that much water, I was still drowning. Jordan then, as they passed me out the trench, the water dislodged, I was able to breathe. But I was only drowning, but I was only drowning for being told for around 60 to 90 seconds, a minute to a minute and a half.
Oh, it's a long time.
Yeah, but when I say that, it doesn't sound like a long time, but a minute and a half believing you're never going to see your family again. This is the end. There's no way out. Do you know what I mean? I truly believe this is it. I'm dead. I'm gone. Now, somehow, luckily, physically wise, I was really lucky. I must have. I think what's happened is there was that much air in the pipe. Like there should have been no air in that pipe, but because the pipe wasn't sat level, it floated. It floated during the holidays, so there was pockets of air. So we've been trying to compress air, which we've then created a cannon because of the amount of air that was in there. And I think there was that much air in there that before the actual end blew off, the blast, before the projectile's gone, the blast has thrown me out the way. Now, if I hadn't been leaning for the spanners in that exact moment, I wouldn't have gone off in that direction. I'd have probably flew back a little bit, but then potentially still being hit. But I know I must have gone quite high because both my boots was found 20 feet away on another part of the job. So my boots had been blown clean off my feet. And then I've obviously landed back in. But again, injury-wise, I needed 7, 8 stitches in the back of my head. I had pipe bedding. I had gravel stuck in my face, my chest, my shoulders, like shrapnel. My baldy head was full of stones. My boiler suit, my harness had been blown clean off. My arms had hyperextended, tearing the tendons in my arms. My elbows went the wrong way. And I tore all the tendons in both feet where my boots was ripped off. But physically, really, really lucky.
Yeah.
I was told that I'd never lift weights again. Like at the time, I was 16 stone and full on bodybuilding, carrying carpets and
you look like you've recovered.
Yeah, well, doctor said to me basically, you'll never lift weights again because damage to tendons doesn't repair. Like the amount of damage you've done to your arms, basically your distal tendons will snap and you'll need to. And
Yeah.
I didn't listen. And a couple of years later, and when you're feeling a bit all right again, and I'd put on a lot of weight because I drank a lot and ate a lot and went into this dark place. And then I decided I need to start training. And literally, as soon as I did, my bicep snapped, ended up here, and I needed surgery to put it right. So they cut me across there and reattached it. So this arm now I'm all right. It's been done. I can train, and it's like a bionic arm. This arm could go at any point, so I've still got to be really, really careful. So I can look after myself now, and I do go to the gym and I do work out. But I'm 14 stone now, whereas all my adult life I was around 16 stone. I mean, I'm
Fighting weight.
carrying a lot less weight. But yeah, say life's good. So physically, I still struggle today. I can't walk far. I've got my feet hurting because of the damage to my tendons.
Yeah.
Struggle on the lower back. Little things, but again, some of that is age as well. You know what I mean?
We're the
Wear and
same age,
tear.
me and
And
you.
I think working in construction for all them years as well, there is a bit of wear and tear on but any physical job you're doing. Do you know what I mean? But for
That's
me,
right. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say for me, it was mentally, the mental injuries which got me
hmm.
to, well, which is why I am who I am today. It's SK Life Coach UK is because of the mental health journey afterwards.
I was just thinking about that. I mean, that you've got your arms and your feet, which they're not insignificant injuries. They're physical injuries, and we spoke earlier about the need for the budget to be the same for health as it is for safety, right? And it isn't. But the impact on your mental health and probably those around you as well. The impact of the time must have been significant for you.
It was, it was kind of instant. Um,
Yeah,
so like when I share my talk and I do my presentation, I get to the mental health bit. I give a little bit on my background so they know like where I've come from. Like the same year, like I'm off a council estate in Hull, pretty rough area. Is one of the worst I think for many years in Europe apparently. Um, and my dad left when I was 10. So there's me, my mum, my little sister. Now, all of a sudden at the age of 10, I grew up pretty quick. Like, I think when I was 10,
yeah,
I acted like I was around 15. And I had to grow up quick because I was now the man of the house. Like, I had to look out for my mum. I had to look after my sister. Anybody on the estate, I had to kind of keep something about me so that they didn't rob us or pick on my sister, or you had to kind of have your wits about you. Now, I'm not sat here saying I'm a tough guy, and I always was because I'm off the council estate. That was just the mental attitude you kind of had to have back then. And I was told many times, at a young age, probably into my teens, man up and deal with it, get on with it. You
yeah,
know what I mean? That was told all the time. Oh, just man up, get on with it, deal with it.
yeah. Sounds familiar.
And then I took that into construction at the age of 20, and there's a lot of banter, and we had a laugh and demolition. But again, if anybody was really struggling with anything, we didn't talk about it. We just had a drink and forgot about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
We didn't talk. And then for me, like 5 minutes before the accident, if you'd come up to me and said, Steve, I'm really, really struggling. I feel really depressed. I feel really down. My answer to you would have been, oh, man up, get on with it. What do you want? You want some time off so you can go and lay in bed all day? Like,
do you want to cuddle?
yeah,
Yeah,
like, do you want to go and lay in bed all day? It's just an excuse not to come to work. You know what I mean? Mental health is an
yeah,
excuse. But that's because I'd never really gone through anything. I'd never been in them
yeah,
deep dark holes. I'd had bad days like most of us, like, but I'd never been depressed. I didn't have no empathy because I didn't understand it. Now, I went to hospital and I got stitched up after the accident. I had a lot of scans, a lot of x-rays. They're trying to keep me in. They're trying to find me a bed because I've drowned and got a head injury.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, there's no chance I'm staying in. I want to go home. I want to be with my kids. There was two reasons I needed to get home. One was I needed to be with my kids. I didn't think I'd ever see them again. And then there was another reason which we'll come back to a bit towards the end. But I discharged myself. I went home. My dad picked me up. I couldn't walk. I could kind of shuffle, but I couldn't walk. I couldn't move my arms. My arms were stuck in this position for about 4 weeks because of the damage to my arms.
yeah,
But I laid with my kids until they fell asleep. So obviously they're worried. They saw the state of me. But I wanted them to feel safe and secure knowing that I'm here. But then when I tried to sleep, as soon as I nodded off, I was back in that trench. And I relived every single second as real as what this is now. The bubbles, the sounds, the smells. I'm screaming for my mum. I'm praying to God, please, I can't die. I relived every single moment of it. And then Katie, my partner at the time, woke me up and she was like, "You're having a nightmare." It turned into a full-on panic attack. So something again I'd never
Yeah.
had. Like I thought I was having a heart attack. I can't breathe. She's telling me to slow my breathing down. I had a glass of water. She calmed me down. But I think it was maybe about an hour or so later, fell asleep again. And as soon as I went into that sleep, again, I was back there, reliving every second of it. It was,
Wow.
it was to say, like, when people had spoke about flashbacks before, I never realized how really,
Vivid.
yeah, how vivid, how the detail. And then, but my way of dealing with those flashback the next day was, we've still got a fridge full of beer. Just had Christmas. I was like, Katie, do us a favour, pass us a can. She was like, don't be daft. She said, you're on the strongest painkillers that the hospital could give you. You're not allowed to drink. I was like, I'll be all right. I just need something to take the edge off. To basically, instantly, I wanted to self-medicate. I wanted to drink, block it out. And so I drank, which again was a struggle because I couldn't move my arms. I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah, someone's out the
But
camber. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I made sure that I did. You know what I mean? But then the drinking progressively, really quickly got really bad. So once I'd finished off whatever was in the fridge that same day, the next day it was whatever spirits we had lying about. Once they'd all gone, I said to Katie, "You need to go to the shop for me." And she was like, "What for?" And I said, "I need a drink." She was like, "You don't need a drink. Don't tell me what I do and don't need. I want a drink. Go and get me a drink." And I physically couldn't go and get one. So I argued with her to the point where she had no choice but to go and get one.
Yeah.
Um, because we had no money, because we just had Christmas and lived week to week, I didn't know when I was going to be back at work. She got me a 2.5 litre bottle of cider, just cheap cider. And then them 2.5 litre bottles of cider went on to become my best friend. One a day to 3 or 4 a day, depending on
Yeah.
my moods, my flashbacks. But looking back now, the more I drank, the deeper I fell into that big dark pit. And
Yeah.
I wasn't seeing that at the time. You know, like I was just telling myself it'll be all right. Everyone kept telling me how lucky I'd been, you know, like the accident and everything. I wasn't feeling lucky.
No.
E- Even the smell, I didn't realize water had a smell until Katie turned the kitchen tap on. And as soon as she turned that tap on, it was like it filled the room, the smell of water. And I'd panic. I'd go into a full on panic attack. I'd be having flashbacks again.
But
And
yeah.
then again, in order to stop that, I'd drink even more. But with the drink came the gambling because I needed more money. My mum was lending me money to help us out, but as quick as she was lending me it, I was gambling it. I was drinking it. Nothing was getting paid. About like bills, food. Me and Katie were arguing constantly. The boys don't even want to be in the same room. And I remember I'd just been for physio, part of what I share in my talks, because I had to have steroid injections in my elbows, cortisone injections in my elbows to move my arms. And I'd just been to physio and I'd got home and I'd sat down and Harry's 4. And he came running at me to jump on me as a kid would, ready for me to catch him.
Yeah.
And I remember as he came running at me, just instantly, I just physically pushed him away and said, "Fuck off and go to your mum." You know, like, and he went flying. Like, he literally flew across the room.
Poor bugger.
So he's then crying, and because I'm all of a sudden so agitated and angry, the older lad's playing with his Lego, his toys on the floor. I'm like, "You, get all that picked up and get upstairs. Get out of my sight." I was taking all my frustrations, all my anger out on those around me, which I didn't realize, I didn't see at the time. I remember going into the bathroom and crying my eyes out. Literally
Yeah.
seconds after that had happened, because I've never laid a hand on my kids like ever, and to do something instinctively like that, it was. And I'm crying my eyes out.
Shocks you.
Yeah,
Shocks you.
I'm crying my eyes out, and I'm saying to myself, "Why am I being like this? What is wrong with me?" And then I remember splashing my face and walking out, and Katie saying, "Are you all right?" Me going, "Yeah, of course I am. I'm dealing with it." No, I wasn't dealing with it. I was broken by that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be here. I believed that I've all been better off if I'd have died that day. And I'd started planning ways of not being here no more. So yeah, it got really, really dark, really, really quick.
And in those time, I mean, you put yourself on your own in here.
Yeah,
You got those three wonderful, lovely people around you, right? But you put yourself on your own in that place. It starts off as self-protection,
yeah,
but, I'm not, listen, I'm not a professor or a doctor,
Yeah.
But from my own experience, you pull yourself away to you can do it. It'll save them from getting hurt,
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah, and a big thing for me, like, if anyone ever spoke to me about, like, suicide or anything like before this accident, I used to say, "Oh, it's a selfish act," like, it's
Mm.
an easy way out. But when my man took me, I believed I couldn't be here no more for them. It wasn't selfish, it was for them.
For them, yeah,
They'd have been better off if I hadn't have survived that day. My kids wouldn't even be in the same room as me. Katie and I are constantly arguing. My mum and me had fallen out because my mum stopped. Well, she refused to lend me money to gamble and like pay for alcohol because I fell out on my mum. My sister wouldn't talk to me. And we was always a really close family, but all of a sudden, everyone that was closest to me couldn't be anywhere near me, and I'd
yeah.
pushed them all away, and it was like, it'd be better for all of them if I'm not here.
Where where were you? The thing that's going through here all the time. Where's your work colleagues? Where's your company?
I I had one visit from the company, like, weeks after it had happened because they wanted another statement,
Mm.
and then I do remember him saying, if we can help you out with anything, just let us know." But that was it. They didn't say nothing else, just, if we can help you out with anything, let us know." And then I didn't hear out from nobody.
It's
And
just
and I ended up being off work for about 8.5 months with the physical injuries in the beginning, and then the mental health. As I said, everything that I've just spoke about, that all happened within about 12 weeks after the accident. And it got to the point where eventually me and Katie had a massive fight. Basically, I drove to the Humber Bridge, pissed out my head, been drinking. She'd gone out to her mum's. I decided this is it. Like, thankfully I couldn't do it because I'd read that when people jump off the bridge, they're unconscious when they hit the water and then just get washed away. And for me, that's how I needed to do it. I didn't want anyone to find me because I knew it would traumatize them. I just
yeah,
needed to disappear. But then when I got there, I had a little voice in my head saying, "What if you're not unconscious when you hit the water? If you're not unconscious when you hit the water, you're going to drown." And I know what it feels like to
yeah. You've
drown,
been there before.
and I didn't have the balls to do it. I couldn't go through with it. So I ended up having to go home. And then when I would get in, Katie's screaming at me, "Where you been?" And all, like, we have a massive argument. The kids are crying. And then she said, "You either ring a doctor and get help, or you pack a bag and leave." And and I started packing a bag because I didn't believe I needed help. Looking back now, I can see it all. I know 100% I
Yeah,
needed help. But at that time, I just kept telling myself, I'm dealing with it. Even the intrusive suicidal thoughts, I thought that was what had to be. It was normal. It was where I was supposed to be. And I remember throwing some stuff in a bag, and I heard something behind me. And as I turned around, my little boy stood there, Harry. He's 4 years old. He's crying his eyes out. He's got tears down his face, and he
yeah,
just looked at me and said, "Please don't go, Daddy." And in that moment, I had the most vivid flashback again. I'm underwater and I'm praying to, like I said, I'm not a religious person. I'm praying to God, "Please, please, please, I can't die. I can't leave my kids." And it hit me like a brick. I had a full on breakdown. I realized what I was doing. I remember Katie and the boys holding me and crying. And then my next memory is I'm speaking to a doctor and he's telling me I've got anxiety, depression, and post traumatic stress disorder. Now, when he said PTSD, I started laughing at him. And I said, "Guys like me don't get PTSD. That's something you get in war." It's something I'd always associated with the forces, like, because that's where I'd read about it.
yeah.
And he
Of
said, "No,
course.
anybody that's gone through any trauma, no matter what it is, any trauma, can struggle from post-traumatic stress disorder." And then that was when my therapy journey started. And I had 4 months of therapy twice a week, which was difficult. If you've ever had therapy,
Yeah, yeah,
I went for my accidents. I went for therapy believing was going to talk about the accident and that's it.
yeah,
My therapist wanted to go right back to my very beginnings, my earliest memories, and drag out all this shit that I'd seen with my mum and dad and domestic violence, and to try and figure out what them triggers was.
yeah,
I now understand it. Studying what I've studied for the last 15 years, I understand it, but I didn't at the time. And I didn't really like therapy. I just kept turning up. And she kept telling me to write a gratitude list every morning. And I kept laughing at her and saying, "I'm not writing fucking list. You know what I mean? I'm not. And then on my very last session, still wasn't in a great place. I was in a better place, but I wasn't in a great. I had a bit more
Yeah.
of an understanding. And my therapist turned around and said to me, "Look, Steve, you're an intelligent guy." She said, "You want moving forward. If you don't want to end up in this place again, you've got to learn about the mind." And I said, "What do you mean?" So she said, "The more you understand the mind and the body and the physicality of everything, the better you will be moving forward." So she said, "Look up mindfulness." And then I started laughing at her and I said, "That's what you've been trying to get me to do for the last 4 months." I said, "I'm not
Yeah.
meditating and writing gratitude lists." I said, "It's not me. Like, I'm not interested." But then she planted a seed. And when I went away, first thing I started to read about was spirituality. Again, I'm not a religious person, but
Yeah.
somebody was looking over me that day or looking over Anthony and Jordan, because they could have been in that trench as well.
Yeah.
I started reading about Buddhism and different religions, all different religions, just to have a better understanding of people and behavior and why we act in certain ways and do certain things. Then I came across NLP, as I mentioned to you earlier on, studied NLP
Yeah.
for a lot, well, ever since. CBT, which I like some of the techniques in that, some of the reframing and questioning of certain scenarios. And then hypnotherapy, self-hypnosis helped me with my PTSD. So through self-hypnosis, I learned to go back to the trauma. So my flashbacks was always, I'm underwater, I'm screaming for my mum, I'm praying, I can't leave my kids, I can smell the water, all of that. I put myself back into that, but I sit like a Buddhist monk in my mind, underwater, telling myself, "You're all right. You get through this." And
Yeah.
the more I imagined it differently, even though I know what happened really, but the more I imagined me sat there telling myself, "It's all right. You get through this." The trigger stopped over time. The smell of water, I
Okay.
wouldn't have a panic attack. I stopped having the nightmares. Like I said, they'd come and go all the time. But through self hypnosis, the trauma kind of not went away fully, but it was under control. And that fascinated me. So I studied hypnotherapy. And that's what took me on to 7 years ago.
So where you
Eight,
are.
8 years after the accident, I'd been studying the mind, like I say, hypnosis, NLP.
And you
And
leave, you get to the end of that. You said your last counselling session. So I did a year of counselling last year. It not on the same level, but I didn't realise how far I needed to go back. Like you say, we want to go back all the way. But they didn't force me down that road. You know, why do you think this? Why do you think that? Really good, right? And I felt like I was open to it, to be fair,
yeah,
because
I
I'd
mean,
done the stuff with the Lions and whatever.
you've got to be
But I
open
think
to it.
when I moved when I was 20 from North Wales, which is like a Welsh version of Hull, where I
Yeah,
grew up, right? I mean,
yeah,
I know both places, right? And it is, and I would have been the same for a long time. And plenty of people around me, even when I worked for the union, would say, man up a bit, don't be so wet.
yeah, yeah,
But then when I went through it and I got through to the session where she discharged me, never cried once. And she'd say, "You don't want to cry, it's fine." Until that last one. And I just caught myself unawares, didn't know it was going to happen, didn't feel that was. And all of a sudden, I feel tears running down my face. I was like, "Is you all right?" I said, it's about to discharge you. I said, I'm absolutely fine. I feel for that teenager. I'm
yeah,
47 at the time, right? Feel for that teenager that didn't have this
yeah,
and went through all that shit.
yeah.
And all for all those years. And when I was listening to you there, you're fighting it off. I ain't doing this. My therapist asked me to do stuff, psychologist, and you're like, well, it's not me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But some of it clicks and it just gets better, right?
The, th-
And they
the
give you
thing
the
is,
good tips.
I said it's not me, but I started writing a gratitude list just as soon as I woke up. Because even after therapy, and I'd been my self development courses and studied certain things, but I was still negative in a lot of aspects of the day. Like so. When I
Yeah,
woke up in the morning, I'd write down 7 things that I'm grateful for and why. And it could have been anything. It didn't have to be my kids, the car, the house. It was little things like the wardrobe I get to keep my clothes in, the toothpaste I get to brush my teeth with.
yeah,
It didn't matter what it was as long as it was a positive. But I'd write down 7 things that I'm grateful for and the reason why. And what I learned doing that every day, probably after about 2 weeks, was throughout the day, I was only seeing positive things. The brain finds it so easy to pick up on the negatives. It's
yeah.
kind of our program to protect ourselves. So we see the negatives to protect ourselves. But I was seeing the positives in everything. Like someone cuts me up in a car before, normally I'd be like bibbing me on. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck. All of a sudden, I'm like, he must be in a rush. He must have some on. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's going through something.
Yeah.
And I've stopped seeing the negative in people and things and start seeing the positive in everything. And then my internal voice used to beat me up a lot. You know that the little voice in our head.
Yeah.
And even before I started doing talks and stuff like that, it was bad. I used to I used to look in the mirror and tell myself to fuck off for no reason.
Yeah.
And I started meditating for 10 minutes twice a day, once in the morning, once mid-afternoon. And it was just something that I'd read and no music, no nothing, just a quiet room, close my eyes and focus on my breath. And every time that voice or a thought pops in, push it away again. Don't like try and keep your mind blank. And at first I used to think, what's the point of this? It don't work. But the more I did it, like anything we do, I got to a point where I could sit for like literally 10 minutes and see clouds and sky when I closed my eyes. I'd block everything
Amazing.
away. And now, like me and the wife went to Capital Summertime Ball last year, and I started feeling a little bit achy and a bit anxious, and was right in the middle. There's around 60,000 people. We're in the middle of the pitch, and I said, I need to meditate. And she was like, what? And I literally sat where I was in the middle of everybody, put my hands on my knees and closed my eyes and breathed for 10 minutes. And then I felt absolutely me. I felt all refreshed, felt amazing. Popped back up. She was like, you're the only person that I know that can just switch off in front of 1,000 people.
That's incredible. That is.
But for me, meditation is a superpower. Once a lot of my clients now, I encourage people to do it. You know, like whether you need it guided or whether you can do it yourself. But once you learn to control that, once you learn to control them internal thoughts, and you can block them down, you turn them down, you can chill out anyway. If you're in a high stressful situation at work, before you make any rash decisions, or just go and take yourself in a room and just breathe
Yeah.
and bring it back down again. Because when we get stressed, people don't realize how much cortisol we release into our systems, into our bloodstream, which then brings down our immune system, which then just makes us ill and feel crap.
Yeah.
So if you can control
It's
that, and it's proven that meditating for 10 minutes is as good as 8 hours sleep for the man. You know what I mean? It just brings all your
love
levels.
that. Love that.
So yeah, everybody listening, and start meditating for 10 minutes a day at least. But it's proven as well.
I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, there's studies all over the internet, and 10 minutes of meditation is proven to work better than any antidepressant. Once you can learn to control that and block them thoughts out, it's proven to work better than any antidepressant.
It's incredible. I think I spoke to you earlier about, some of the stuff was going on in our life, right? And privately, it's not a secret. I've said it on the pod before about cancer and what have you. And my wife strongly believes that stress was actually the start of what lowered her immune system, things that were going on in our life at the time, led to her breast cancer. There's no, that's just how she feels, right? And who am I to say I'm wrong? She's wrong. And I'm not saying it's definite, but I get where she's coming from.
I'm not a doctor or a specialist or anything else, but I've read so many books and studied so many different people, and there is a proven link for when somebody goes through a traumatic event. It don't matter what that event is, but it's traumatic to them, and it emotionally, literally drains them, whether it's loss or bereavement, and then when they've done brain scans or checked on people's minds, and there's been like little lesions on the brain, like little scars, and them scars linked to an area of the body, which then is where someone might have cancer or some kind of illness. So there is links to stress and trauma, and then leading to stuff like cancer. And again, like I say, I'm not a doctor; it's just what I've read and what I've seen. But I had a lady come to me through a friend who was terminally ill with cancer. She'd been told she's got like a year left. She was about 67. I'd gone to her house. Someone had said, "Oh, like, can you see her?" And I saw her, and I was like, "How are you doing?" And she was like, "Oh, great to meet you. You don't look like what I was expecting." And I was like, "What was you expecting?" Anyhow, but we had this chat, and she'd had cancer, and she'd had it a while, but now they told her she's terminal, and that's all she kept saying was, "I've got terminal cancer." And I said, look, we're all terminal. None of us
Life's
know.
terminal, isn't it?
Yeah, none of us know how long we've got. Like, I may not make it home tonight. It's tomorrow's not promised for anybody. But for me, don't you let a doctor tell you you've only got a year, because he's not God. What does he know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, as long as you wake up every morning full of the energy of life, you want to be here, and you're looking after yourself, even through the pain and the hard, when it gets difficult, you want to be here, you'll keep fighting. And she was like, and we went into a lot more. She went, oh, thank you so much, Steve. Give me a big.
Yeah.
3 years later, she's still living her best life.
Amazing.
I don't know what's happened now. She moved away, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if she beat it. I don't know anything. But
The
I
mind
know
is so powerful, though.
that is the most powerful. It's very, very delicate, but it's
Yeah.
also very, very powerful.
There was my last podcast, I think it was my last one, or the one before, 2 weeks ago. Rob Seaward, right? He's a electrical estimator currently, one of Macy's subcontractors.
Yeah.
Target. And I just happened to meet him, right? Bit like me, bit like the planning for this, right? This my ADHD goes, fine, there's someone. So yesterday I was like, oh, Steve would be great, right? Here we are.
Yeah.
An birthday present from you. But so I met Rob, and I saw a star on the side of his head, right? It is like a horseshoe. And then the story came, and terminal brain cancer.
Yeah.
The guy's going. During his third cycle of chemo, he cycled to Paris from Marlow, right? Set up a world record, not a Guinness.
Yeah.
But his mind is amazing, and he's working hard, and he's enjoying it, and life, and that the power of fuck you to cancer, right, was his thing.
It's the same with any of us. Any of us can be told we're ill. Me, I know it's not the same, but my doctor's telling me I'm never going to lift weights again. I'm never going to work out the way I did because of the injuries that I suffered and whatever else. Yet here I am at 47, still going to the gym, still lifting light weights, not heavy weights, just light weights, but managing to look after myself. I think the thing is with demand, if somebody tells us we can't do something, or this isn't going to happen, or this is bad, or that's bad, or we tend to believe it, and you'll get a
Yeah,
doctor saying to you, "Oh, you'll never do this again. You'll never walk again." How many cases is there? I've read absolutely loads and loads of studies where doctors have told people, "I'm really sorry, but you'll never walk again." Yet a few years later, they're up about, and because they believed, they didn't give in, they believed in themselves, and they carried on.
yeah,
And I think for me, that's the power of the man. With my one-to-one clients, I always say, look, a lot of people who are religious get their power because they believe in a God of some form. Or for me, if you're like, I get a lot of people who are not religious in any way, and it's like, you are the God of your world. You create your life, your world. Every choice you have ever made has brought you to where you are today, right now. So believe in yourself. If you want to achieve something, you want to do something, don't tell yourself, "Oh, I can't do that." Tell yourself, I can do that. Because even if you get a small step closer to where you want to be, whether it's healthier, physically, mentally, it don't matter. If you believe in yourself, you can achieve anything. And I'm a big believer that we all create our own world. It's people talk about manifestation, and my lad keeps saying he's going to be a millionaire one day, and I'm like, yeah, we'll put some goals into action, and you might be,
yeah. Do it.
but it's not just going to come to you. Like, people read books on manifestation and think, I'm going to close my eyes and imagine being a millionaire. It's the universe don't work like that. For me, it's all about energy. And if you're vibrating at a certain energy and you're positive, you're going to attract other people with that same kind of energy, with the same ideas, the same goals. And then that'll take you to where you want to be.
Yeah,
If But if you haven't got that energy and you don't believe in yourself and you're sat in your room wishing you could do something but not actually getting up to do it, nothing changes if nothing changes. Every day is going to
yeah.
be the same until you do something different.
Who was it said? You keep doing the same things, you get the same results. And you're
Yeah,
right, and that, even winning the lottery, right? You've got to actually make the effort to buy a ticket. We'll pick up and talk more. But I think that mindset from where you were at that lowest ebb to talking to you now, right? 47, 15 years on, smashing it.
it's crazy. And I now say when I do my talks at the end, I'm like, look, my talks are on safety and on mental health and all. It's the full
Yeah.
story. But at the end, I always kind of finish with, look, we have all got a story. every person listening to this has got their own story. We've all gone through
Yeah.
chapters. We've gone through really good chapters. We've gone through bad chapters, happy chapters, and really, really dark chapters. Some people are fortunate. They go through life and they don't have many bad chapters. You know, like, but there will always
Yeah.
be something. There'll always be loss, bereavement. There'll be something. But what we've got to realize is that no matter how dark that chapter gets, how bad that chapter gets, suicide is the end of that book, the end of your
Yeah.
story. It's not the end of your family, your friends. They've got chapters on that after you're gone. But for you, that is the end of the story. But for me now, I look back, if I'd have had the courage that day to do what I was intended to do, I want to see my boys turn up, grow into the young men that they are now. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing a job that I absolutely am passionate about and I love. Like, I now get to travel Europe talking. Like, I never even believed I'd be able to stand in front of people and talk, let alone travel Europe
Yeah.
and stand in front of 1,000 people, like 1,000 construction workers.
Love it.
But yeah, I'm coaching people in Australia and in America one to one on teams. And it's like, who'd have thought when I was sat crying on that toilet, asking myself why am I like, why me? Like, and not wanting to be here. To me now, that's like that was a completely different person. And I often get asked at the end of my talk, if you could go back to that day, what would you do different? Now, from a safety perspective, I would go nowhere near any kind of pressurized system. If something doesn't feel right, we stop the job completely.
Yeah.
That's it. No matter what anybody says, if someone says no, carry on, but you've still got that feeling, don't do it, because go where you go. Your life, your well-being is worth more than any job. But
100%.
if someone said to me, you can carry on, you do that, you don't go in the trench and you carry on living the life as the person that you was, or to be the person you are today, you have to go through it all again, what would you do? I'd get back in that trench, because I do believe a version of me did die that day. And I am now a completely different person. I now know that manning up is having the courage to talk about you're not coping, talk about your struggles, talk
Yeah.
about how you feel. And for me, you get some people now saying, "Oh, it's a snowflake generation," and people who should get on with it and man up. And for me, it's like, no, for anybody, man or woman, to admit that they are not coping takes a lot of strength.
Huge.
And it also saves lives. It turns lives around. And I know from myself, and you yourself know as well, if we
Yeah.
don't talk about our struggles, again, I'm going to use that phrase, nothing changes if nothing changes. We don't get the support, and we end up deeper into that hole. So for me, we've all got that story. We're going to go through chapters. If you're
Yeah.
struggling, somebody else to help you write that next chapter and take your story as far as it's meant to go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And man up.
Well, they said my first podcast that I was a guest on was called Man Up, Man Down. And based on that phrase, two wonderful guys, Dave and Volker. And it set me off on a path whilst going through psychology consultation and psychiatry as well.
Yeah,
And, I'm a better place for it. You're right. Something gave, something snapped at one point, and I'm a better person for it.
we can't compare trauma. It's
Oh,
however something impacts you, whatever you're going through, however that impacts you, then that's you can't compare it to anybody else. It's how you're feeling. And I think for most of us that have gone through certain things, it we do take lessons from it. It does bring out the best in us. Do you know what I mean? And I think for me, like I said, if I hadn't have gone through what I went through, I won't be the person I am today. I won't be giving my time to help people. I won't be traveling construction sites talking about safety and about mental health. I just believe that everything that we go through, each and every one of us, everything happens for a reason. We're where we're
yeah,
supposed to be. And sometimes it isn't nice and it isn't great, but we can still take a lesson from it and be
yeah.
a better person moving forward. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people
I,
are full of anxiety because they're looking too far into the future, and it's not even here. It's not.
yeah.
It's not happened. It's in here. So
Was it?
focus
Was
on
it?
today.
I've got all the phrases today coming back. I can't remember who bloody said them. Life is what happens while you're planning for life, right? So you've got to live a bit of life today. Yes, you've got to plan. You've got to make plans for what you want to do in the future, as we were saying before. But don't forget the moment you're in. And I think that is something I've learned. I think my biggest takeaway, and I'll ask you for yours in a sec for this, was the only thing I can control is me and my reactions to how other people are. I can't change what someone might say to me or what they might think of me.
It's true. I can't make you angry. I can say something and you can get angry. It's however you respond with your emotion to whatever it is. And say it's best to just smile at people and say, yeah, that's fine.
I want to, we're going to shout you out, right? So when people's places to find you, we can put the links and stuff in, but go on. All those thousands of construction companies that are going to phone you now and ask you to come in.
It's SK Life Coach UK, Stephen Kirby.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Google SK Life Coach UK, Google Stephen Kirby. I think when my lad Googled me the other week and I came up straight out and it was SK Life Coach UK and I was like, God, I remember Googling myself when I started to see if it come up. And all it was a cricketer called Stephen. There was nothing to me.
Well, I remember that moment when you first Google yourself, when we all got the internet. You and I, there's only a year's difference in age, right? And do you know who Stuart Wallace was? The CEO of Durax. So,
well, yeah, I'm on
from that you on.
I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. All of them accounts are SK Life Coach UK. My website is sklifecoachuk.co.uk. There's podcasts on there that I've been on before. I'll try and get yours on there once we're sorted. But yeah, and then we'll have to have another one to talk about turns out my incident was never actually reported to the HSE. And there's a lot of, that's something else I'm passionate about within industries, lost time incidents and millions of man hours without an accident, yet there is an accident, it's just not reported. I discharged myself from hospital and go home. Next morning I had no intention of going to work. I couldn't move, but a guy turned up with a minibus and dragged me onto site, which I now know was only so that I'd swiped in so that they didn't have a lost time incident. And then I was on. So we'll go into that a lot more on the next one.
Definitely. Let's leave that cliffhanger there for next time when we come back. Definitely. No, look, Steve, I loved it. Loved listening to you and talking to you and finding out a bit more. Right. And we will come back. We'll do part 2, definitely. When you come back with your tan, because you're not just going to Norwich. And we'll do it. All right. Well, look, have a lovely day and rest of your week. Stay safe and look after yourself. Thanks,
You
Steve.
as well, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.